Good morning and welcome to Summer 2016 594A from sunny Southern California, or well, it's just starting to get a little sunny, a little bit of late May, early June gloom here. I just wanted to record a short video for you guys just to say welcome to the course. I'm looking forward to getting started with you this semester on terrific thesis projects and so on. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. I have a PhD in political science, and I've been involved in really work in sustainability for many years, which has led me into the spatial area. My particular focus actually within my work is in an area called industrial ecology, which is sort of the science of sustainability, and it's about making the most optimal flows of water materials and energy that are possible. So sometimes we like to joke that it's recycling on steroids. And that has many spatial aspects to it, of course, and the very specific area that I do a lot of work in is called spatially explicit life cycle assessment. That's really my research life. And what that means really is following the environmental impacts of products from the very beginning of the life where they're made, and noting the differences in sourcing materials from one place or another, or using energy resources in one place or another, all the way to when the products are used and then eventually disposed, and again understanding the spatial variation in tracking all of that data. So I've done quite a bit of work in that regard, for example, with carbon footprinting of wood and paper products, and understanding different types of forests, different types of forest models, and how those are then linked to supply chains and connected spatially. So, one thing you can see right away is that when we get into academic research, that my particular academic area looks pretty narrow. And I think that's something that you'll find if you're obtaining success in developing your thesis topic this semester, is that it will become quite focused. And maybe focus is the nicer word than the word narrow, but also narrow. And that will be an indication to you when something starts to feel a little bit narrow, maybe actually an indication to you that you're on the right track. Because to do effective research, what we really have to do is carve out very specific thing to work on, and do that specific, sometimes may seem like a fairly small thing very well. And that's really the goal for a successful thesis project in many ways. And so it may feel to you at first like it's incredibly narrow, but I think in the end you'll find that it has a focus, and that you're therefore really able to highlight the contribution that you're making to the GIST field or to the world in general, by having worked in a very focused way on one particular question or objective. So I bring to you guys about 5 years of experience in the GIST program, advising master's thesis students, and some experience before that as well. And so I've supervised nearly 30 students to successful completion of a master's thesis, and of course been on many more committees than that. So I guess I'm offering that to you to let you know that what I hope is that my experience will be of great benefit to you in terms of making your plans, and making good, viable plans that will result in everybody's goal, which is to have a wonderful thesis manuscript 2 semesters from now. So one of the early things we'll do in our class together is we're going to look at different GIST theses in our library, and there's a pretty extensive library of GIST theses that we'll be directing you to on our SSI website. And I think what you'll notice when you start to look through those different thesis projects and maybe read about some of them is that they are very, very different. There's a lot of contrast among them. On the one hand, they vary by the domains that they're in. So in other words, the area of the world where we're applying the GIST. And so that could mean, for example, that we have a thesis in, about malaria in Africa, and another thesis about terrorism in Africa. Of course, most of our theses are not in Africa. Those are just 2 that I thought about. Some of them may be about criminology. Some of them may be about implementing geospatial technology in a nonprofit. We have a thesis just being completed on a symphony orchestra, for example. So there are just a wide variety of domains, of course, that a GIST thesis can occur in. Some of them are in earthquakes, some of them are in food deserts, access to healthy food, that kind of thing. So again, a wide range of domains. And then the other axis that our thesis topics really vary on is that they're also on a wide variety of GIST topics, right? So you can think of that as maybe kind of like along the lines of our elective classes in our program. So some thesis projects are, mostly about cartography, or some thesis projects are mostly about remote sensing. Some are mostly about spatial analysis. Now, most thesis topics have, more than one elective behind them, right? But usually kind of one elective, one area of GIST is in the lead. And that is then paired with a domain so that the theses are quite focused, but on very, very different topics. In fact, one way to get familiar with this is to realize that we've just had a lot of thesis defenses happening, and we've got actually probably quite a few more coming up in the next week or two. In fact, I have a student defending tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. On a topic having to do with healthcare access in the Veterans Administration. And I mention that because what I'd like to do is encourage you guys at this time to consider coming to some of these defenses. The public portion of the defense is usually just the first 30 minutes to 1 hour of a 2-hour defense, so it's not a huge commitment of time. But it's a really good idea to come and get a sense of how the process works, where you envision yourself being in 2 semesters, and maybe even, I know we don't have a student lounge where you guys hang out because we're an online program, but it's a type of thing where if you come to a defense and you could even talk to the student afterwards maybe about what their experience was with the thesis, and get some some sort of inside knowledge from the student's perspective about what it was like to complete a thesis. So anyway, I just want to really encourage you. There's obviously often kind of a flood of defenses right around the key deadlines, human nature being what it is for procrastination. So we have a key deadline just coming up, and so we've had a number of defenses. We're still having a few. There will be, again, a flood of defenses at the end of our 594A term, I would predict. That will be the people who have deadlines that are bearing down on them at the beginning of the fall semester, at the end of the summer semester and beginning of the fall semester. So anyway, try to find time to attend at least 1 or 2 defenses if you can. Just wanted to encourage you to do that. So let's turn to thinking about our course for this semester, where what we're going to really do now is get on the road and drive with as little detour and as little delay as possible towards a very successful thesis project in a 2-semester sequence for you guys. So the first thing you're going to confront on this journey is that you have a choice. And your choice is whether you go with a prospectus that you've already maybe written in 587, maybe revised somewhat since then, had a little more thinking about it, and that you already kind of know what your thesis topic is, right? The other possibility is that you really kind of start from scratch, and I don't want you to feel bad about that. Many students do start from scratch in 594A. They come in, knowing now that whatever they wrote for 587 for their prospectus is not what they want to do, and they have maybe some other ideas in mind. And so if you're in the latter group where you are starting from scratch, the first 6 weeks of our course are really designed to get you quickly to a prospectus, right? There are a number of small assignments along the way, and there are a number of opportunities for you and me and your peers to interact so that we can discuss and shape and focus in on a very good prospectus for you. So you'll be working quickly down that path, and I'll be supporting you in that. And then if you are in the former group where you actually have a prospectus, what I want to really do is encourage you to work ahead if you can, because the first 6 weeks I've actually given you basically time to revise that prospectus, but I don't think it should take 6 weeks to do that. And in fact, for all of you, but particularly for those of you who maybe are starting with a prospectus, I want to point you to week 7 and 8 on the syllabus, which have 2 assignments. One is in week 7, that's the research design and methods outline, and one in week 8, which is the report on data exploration. And these 2 assignments are very helpful to students often in terms of really shaking the dust off, getting very focused in terms of the thesis topic. So actually, if you're in either group, but particularly if you're in the prospectus group, and if you can work ahead on those assignments, I think it would be very, very helpful to you. So I would just encourage you to consider working ahead on those assignments. The way I have the Blackboard set up is everything is available, all the links are available, so you can turn in work as soon as it's done. And I will give you about a 1-week turnaround on feedback for anything you've turned in. So if you're in the group that's working on revising a prospectus and you want to discuss the prospectus with me some and then go on and do the week 7 and 8 assignments like in weeks 2 and 3 and submit those, and then come back and maybe in week 5, even though it's not due till week 6, you want to submit the revised prospectus, that would be a ideal path to be on. So very customized, very individualized at this point. I would expect for us to be in touch quite a lot. I would expect you to be able to customize your experience to work ahead as you can. Of course, if you meet the minimum deadlines that are specified in the syllabus and on Blackboard, you should be on track and for an on-time performance for the thesis. It's just always good with the thesis, when possible, to work ahead some in case there's a contingency that occurs that you didn't anticipate. Somebody doesn't get back to you, or there's illness, or it could be anything, right? That could cost you a few weeks. And so if you're ahead of the game, that's always a better position to be in. So anyway, the other thing I'll say about working ahead is that the big goal this semester is to pass the faculty jury, which means the faculty will read your material and they will evaluate it according to the 2 criteria in the syllabus. And as soon as you pass the juries, even if that's as early as, say, week 6, the week 6 jury, which meets week 6, week 7, we will go ahead and assign you an advisor. Now, that doesn't mean that I disappear. It doesn't mean that the requirements in 594A disappear. You still have to finish a thesis proposal, and I will be here to support you in that. But what it means is that you will have the benefit of an extra voice and some early guidance and a little bit longer time to transition, and I will assist in that handoff and transition to your advisor. So that's the upshot of our course this semester. Just two terms you should become familiar with and be able to distinguish pretty carefully. One is the prospectus, which is just kind of an overview of the topic, and that's what's due in week 6 of our course. At the end of our course, on the last day of our course, what's due is a thesis proposal. And the proposal is actually a draft first 3 chapters of your thesis. So it's actually should be a little bit more than half your thesis, in fact. And so it's a big, it's a big undertaking to get there, and that's our goal, and that's what I'm here to support you in. And so I'm sure we'll all get there. We will just work very hard at it together over the course of the summer. So with that, I'll say please stay in touch with me. This is a journey. You're driving the car, but I'm your co-pilot or your navigator. And so if you come to what looks like a fork in the road and you're not sure which way to go, even if we don't have a seminar meeting that week, you zip me an email, you reach out to me. I'm very happy to hear from you. It's as I say, a very individualized, sort of customized experience this semester. And so I expect to be in communication with you guys quite a lot. Okay, so I'm looking forward to hearing more about your thesis topics this week and getting underway, and I will talk to you all very soon. Good morning.